Have you ever noticed how the most toxic person in the room suddenly gets quiet around certain people? Not because they changed, not because they healed, but because something about you feels dangerous to them. And no, it's not your muscles, it's not your money, it's not your alpha energy. It's your emotional intelligence. Because toxic people don't fear loud people, they fear people they can't control. Here are 7 silent behaviors that make toxic people fear you without you saying a single dramatic word. 1. You pause before you respond. Most people react instantly. They defend, they explain, they panic smile. But you pause. And that pause does something powerful. It breaks their script. Toxic people rely on emotional impulsivity. They throw bait and wait for you to bite. But when you take a breath and respond slowly, you're signaling something psychological. I'm not operating from emotion. I'm operating from choice. That hits them where it hurts, because it removes their favorite weapon, urgency, and it triggers uncertainty, which is one of the biggest sources of anxiety in controlling personalities. 2. You don't over-explain yourself. You know that moment when someone challenges you and you feel the need to give a full TED Talk? Toxic people love that, because every extra sentence is a new handle they can grab. But you say things like, "No, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me." Then you stop. That's emotional self-regulation. That's boundaries. And in psychology, boundaries are basically a signal of self-respect. And here's the twist. Toxic people don't fear your boundaries. They fear what boundaries imply, that you're not afraid to lose them. 3. You stay calm when they try to provoke you. Toxic people test you like it's a sport. They make a joke that's not a joke. They bring up your past. They do that little eye roll, that "I guess you're too sensitive" line. And they're watching one thing. Can I control your nervous system? Because if they can control your emotions, they can control your decisions. But when you remain calm, you're doing something that feels almost supernatural to them. You're refusing to be emotionally hijacked. Psychologically, this is the opposite of what they expect. They expect reactivity. They expect a fight. They expect you to prove yourself. And when you don't, they feel powerless. Because your calm isn't weakness, it's emotional dominance. 4. You notice patterns and you don't argue about them. This one is deadly. Most people argue about facts. Toxic people live for that. They'll say, "You're imagining things. That's not what I meant. You're twisting my words." So you bring receipts. You explain timelines. You try to win the debate. But you don't do that. You simply say, "I've noticed a pattern. When this happens, you say that. I don't like how this feels." And you don't need them to agree. That's self-awareness plus pattern recognition, a core part of emotional intelligence. And it breaks one of the most common manipulation tools, gaslighting. Because gaslighting only works when you need their reality to validate yours. But you don't. And the moment they realize you trust your perception, they start fearing you, because they can't rewrite your mind. 5. You don't compete for attention. Toxic people often crave an audience. They want reactions. They want validation. They want people to chase them, fix them, prove loyalty. So they do things like ignore you to see if you beg, flirt in front of you to see if you flinch, post things online hoping you'll spiral. And most people do spiral, because social comparison is wired into the brain. We want to feel chosen. But you don't. You don't chase. You don't double text. You don't perform. You stay steady. And that quiet steadiness tells them, "You're not the center of my emotional universe." That hits their ego like cold water. Because controlling people don't want love, they want leverage. And when you don't hand them leverage, they don't know what to do with you. 6. You walk away without making it a scene. This one is the one that terrifies them most. Because toxic people expect drama. They expect threats. They expect you to announce your exit like a movie monologue. But you don't. You just create distance. You stop explaining. You stop showing up. You stop giving access. No war, no speeches, no, I hope you learn your lesson. Just absence. And psychologically, absence is loud. It triggers something called loss aversion. The brain hates losing something it had access to, especially attention, especially control. So when you quietly remove your presence, they feel the shift immediately. Not because they miss you, but because they miss what they could get from you. 7. You don't try to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. Let's be real. Some people don't misunderstand you. They strategically misunderstand you. Because confusion gives them an advantage. If you're always explaining, you're always defending. And if you're always defending, you're never free. But you stop trying. You don't beg to be seen. You don't chase closure. You don't fight to prove your intentions. You let them believe whatever story keeps them comfortable. And you keep your peace. That's emotional independence. That's maturity. That's what psychologists call internal validation, when your self-worth doesn't depend on someone else's interpretation. And toxic people fear that the most. Because once you stop needing their approval, they lose their grip. So here's the real message. Toxic people aren't scared of confrontation. They're scared of clarity. They fear people who stay calm, set boundaries, trust their perception, don't chase, don't beg, and don't need permission to leave. So if you've been feeling guilty for becoming colder or too quiet or too distant, maybe you're not colder. Maybe you're finally unhookable. And that's what healthy power looks like. If this video felt like it was describing someone you've dealt with or who you're trying to heal from, not for drama, for clarity. Because the more you understand psychology, the harder you are to manipulate.